Hello, Rebels of the Sherpa Revolution. Normally, I start off this podcast by saying hi, but I'm going to start this one off by saying hydration. We know how important hydration is for our bodies. It's the thing that keeps us running, right? You want to be a well-oiled machine. You want to be running efficiently. You know what can help you run efficiently? Liquid IV. It is the category-winning hydration brand fueling your well-being, and their hydration multiplier is the one product that you are missing in your daily routine. It comes in a little stick that's a powder, and in just one stick, you get 5 essential vitamins and 2 times faster hydration than water alone. If you use it first thing in the morning, maybe before a workout, when you feel run down, maybe after a long night out and doing a little partying, you know what I mean? And even what if you have like a long flight or something like that and you just bleh, right? We all feel that way, bleh. So add this to your water, and that convenient packaging can go with you anywhere you go, even if you're going to the gym or you're traveling or you're at work and maybe you didn't have a great breakfast. At least it's something that will fuel you up in the morning. And there's a whole bunch of flavors that are available, like sea berry, strawberry lemonade, Concord grape, lemon lime, pina colada, tropical punch, watermelon, strawberry, passion fruit, guava, acai berry. Did I say that right? I never know how to say that. But those are just some of the flavors. Here's some statistics for you folks. 1 stick of liquid IV in 16 ounces of water contains 5 essential vitamins: B3, B5, B6, B12, and even vitamin C. And we all know how important those B vitamins are. It's got 3 times the electrolytes of traditional sports drinks. It's made with premium ingredients. It's non-GMO, and it is free from gluten, dairy, and soy. I'm going to offer you a great deal, Rebels. If you go to liquidiv.com and use offer code Sherpa, you can get 20% off of anything that you order on that site when you're shopping for some better hydration. So that's Liquid IV. Check it out at liquidiv.com. Podcast that you're listening to is being presented to you in cooperation with the SJ Network. If you're a person who'd like to appear on a podcast, contact Stephen Joyner at s-j-network.com. Let's get on with the show.
Today's guest on the Sherpa Screening Room is actor and comedian Don Smith, who currently has several projects out on streaming services.
Don has what's been called the best beard in Podcastia. I'm not sure if I'd want a beard, but I guess it will eventually grow on me.
Coming to you from Sherpa Chalet in beautiful downtown Mount Podcastia, it's time for entertainment interviews in the Sherpa Screening Room. Grab an aisle seat and a bucket of popcorn, but don't crunch too loud or you'll miss the show. Now, here's your host, Jim, the Podcast Sherpa.
Hello there, Rebels of the Sherpa Revolution. Welcome to the Sherpa Screening Room. It is a presentation of Too Many Podcasts. It is I, Jim the Podcast Sherpa, your faithful Sherpa, leading you through this mountain of Podcastia. And in this episode, we get to take a break from the podcasts and we speak to folks who are in the creator field. And this week, very special interview. This gentleman is one funny gentleman. His name is Don Smith. And Don was actually in the World Series of Stand-Up. Now, the World Series, that's pretty big stuff. If I were to enter the World Series of Stand-Up, they would not even let me in the stadium. I can guarantee you that. But Don Smith, he is a guy who definitely deserves to be there. He made me laugh so much during the course of our interview, but he is not only a comic, he's also an actor and a producer who's done a lot of really different stuff, and not all comedies, a lot of crazy, scary adventure stuff too. And he's got the best beard in podcasting, by the way. If you can see the actual images of him, that would take a while for me to grow. I'd have to, no, I don't want to mention where I might comb it up from. I could get in trouble. Anyway, so we spent a little time talking together and he let me know about his career in stand-up and some of the projects that he's done and a lot that are in the works. So you will be hearing from him soon, Rebels. So without any further ado, let's talk to my buddy Don Smith right here and now. Hello there, Rebels. Welcome to the Sherpa Screening Room. My guest today is a very busy man. He is a producer, an actor, a comedian, and he's got all sorts of projects going on at the same time. He started in the early 2000s, I guess, as an actor, and then later became a comedian. And now he's got a whole bunch of projects coming up on some of your favorite streaming services. His name is Don Smith. He is coming to us from Ohio. Welcome, sir.
Hey, thanks for having me. It's good to be here.
You know, a few years ago, Don actually had a radio show called The Life, and I was the guest on it with you. And there was another really funny comedian, and you guys were just on a roll, and I just kind of said, "All right, I'm just going to take a step back and let you guys do what you do." It's just easier that way.
It's sometimes it is. I've had shows where I've sat back and let people just go back and forth. So yeah, it's I kind of miss doing that every now and then. But that's there was probably Scotty Mays that was on because he did a lot of my shows, but it's hard to say.
The name sounds familiar. Yeah, I think you might be right.
Yeah, I kind of put the brakes on the Life radio show about 2 years ago, I think. Something it might even be 3. I don't know. I lose track of time anymore. But I'm not nearly as busy as I used to be though, because I used to do the radio show. Podcast. I was a comedian. I was an actor. I was a producer. I owned a comedy club. I worked full time. I still work full time. So yeah, that's everything else I do is just a hobby.
I imagine you have a hard time sitting still, my friend.
Sometimes I'm trying to learn. But they don't get that good at drugs in Ohio.
Now, I find it interesting that you started off acting before you got into stand-up. Usually you take stories where it's the other way around. How did that work out for you?
Well, actually, I'd always been interested in stand-up comedy, but I never really had the courage to do it. Mm-hmm. I'd had an interest in acting. I'd never had the courage to do it. But the acting thing started, I was 25 years old. At the time, I was in between jobs. I was kind of bummed. I was having a real bad go of things. I was looking for jobs, and I saw a open audition, Dayton Theater Guild for live theater. And I just thought, I'm going to go audition. And lo and behold, I got cast. It was a crazy play called Epic Proportions. And basically, every actor played, other than the main 2 or 3 characters, every actor played like 5 or 6 roles. So I got cast in 8 roles, including the off-screen narration. And I had never done anything like this before. And just kind of got bit by the acting bug. I did a lot of theater. I think the first movie I ever worked in was in 2006. It was a student film out of Wright State University, but it was like their first ever completed feature-length student film. Mm-hmm. And I'm not sure whatever became of it. It was out there at some point, and but that's been a long time ago. But
it'll turn up on YouTube one way or the other.
It'll turn up on YouTube. And I did a few other things here and there, and I kind of got out of it for a while. Like I'd say, because I haven't done any theater, any stage theater. I haven't done any of that since I think the last play I did was 2009. Okay. And I probably had 5 years where I didn't do any of the creative stuff. Mm-hmm. And then around 2014, I was finishing my bachelor's degree. I went back to finish my bachelor's degree a little late, and the English department had what they called a comedy writing class. When I signed up for it, that's what it was in the on their website, was a comedy writing class. So I signed up for it. I said, that'll be cool. I get there, and the class is actually the basics of stand-up comedy. And the final exam, it was a 4-minute set at the Dayton Funny Bone here in town.
Okay.
So that I was like, okay, I'm just going to run with this because I've always wanted to do it anyway. And I had a blast. It was probably, and it's weird to say this, working in an English degree, that was probably one of the most useful classes that I took working on an English degree. Because if you want to know how to edit something down and how to, just pick out the best parts, just know that you're going to be performing in front of a bunch of people that are daring you to make them laugh. That's where I learned to edit. Because you can write all kinds of great stuff and it's going to be boring as hell, but nobody's going to read it other than maybe your professor. But if you're doing a stand-up comedy class, you're going to want to edit that to the best possible thing you can get. And I spent all kinds of time on that, just trying to get that set perfect. And I mean, by comparison to me 5 years in, it was kind of lame. But at the time, I thought it was a really good set. Looking back now, all my sets were garbage. But no, I guess that's the thing. If you don't think that your older work is lacking, you're probably not growing in anything. So
now you said you've actually got a couple of small gigs coming up because you're going to just kind of come out of semi-retirement for doing this.
I haven't been. The last time I was on stage was in October of 2021, and that was the first time in probably 10 months. Because I had kind of retired then, and then somebody asked me to do a show, and I was like, all right, and did that one. And then over a year and a half later, I'm doing a show tomorrow night at Bricky's Comedy Club, which is down south of Dayton in Miamisburg. That's a friend of mine runs that, Kevin Rupert. He was on my show multiple times too. I love Kevin to death, but he runs Bricky's Comedy Club now, and I'm doing an open mic there tomorrow, kind of to get a couple. I was convinced to do a show later on in the month, a bigger show, a booked show. And since I haven't been on in so long, I figure I better get a couple of mics under my belt or it's going to be really bad. So I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. I will say the last time when I took the 10-month break and went back that October, I had a really good set, but I was a nervous wreck. And I'm sure that's what's going to happen tomorrow. I'm going to be a nervous wreck. And I hope I have a good set because it's been a while. I'm trying to decide if I want to start doing it again regularly.
You know, you must have an interesting perspective on stand-up, you having owned a club too, because you know what you want to see up there, and then you're going to go up there and you want to be sure that you kind of fit that mold as well, right?
Right. I had actually Kevin Rupert brought me up one of the shows he ran several years back when I was performing a lot. He actually brought me up on stage as the owner of Wiley's Comedy Club, and I was like, "Don't ever do that to me." It's like you bring me up with that. I've got to be funny because I'm representing my whole club. That's a lot of pressure. But yeah, it was owning a comedy club was just such a rare experience that I am so glad I'm done with. But you do learn a lot about comedy, and there are some things that, and even with that, comedy's subjective. There are some things people think is hilarious that I just do not think is funny. You know, Jeff Dunham, but I didn't say that.
Just a little tick, right?
And I'm sure he doesn't care either. But it's the added pressure of having been doing it for a while. Even though I've not been on stage, there's still that added pressure of having a club and having been. I mean, you talk about being busy. I feel lazy these days because I used to be busy. I think 2019, I was averaging, because I think in 2019, I was involved in 4 feature films. I was doing, I think, 4 episodes of the radio show a week. I'm working full time. I was helping run the comedy club. And I think I averaged like 16 comedy shows a month in stand-up.
Wow.
During that whole year. And it was exhausting. I lost like 90 pounds that year. And then COVID hit, and I gained every bit of it back and then some. So here we go.
the scales of life, right?
Yes, there you go. I've yo-yoed my way through most of my life. Yeah.
I'm curious, who were some of your comedic influences?
As a young kid, I liked a lot of British comedy, but in the 80s, with the exception of the Sledge-O-Matic, I always liked Gallagher's comedy. His comedy, not Sledge-O-Matic, because that kind of took over his entire show, and that became what he was known for. And I don't even think he cared for that. That's why he got so angry in his later years. But no, I was always a big Gallagher fan for his insight. And Sledge-O-Matic was funny when it first started because it was the shock value, plus it was making fun of all the cooking infomercials and all the Ron Popeil and the Ronco and all that kind of stuff. And that's what it was originally intended to do. And I think it kind of got away from him. Yeah. But I think most of my big comedy influences are all dead now. One of my absolute favorites, and still is, even though he's not with us anymore, is Richard Jeni. Was absolutely brilliant. When he would go on a rant, I couldn't breathe for 10 minutes, and the whole time he was just kept going. So definitely one of my favorites. Okay. I tried some of those style of rants, and I run out of breath too quick.
It's interesting. I mean, a lot of the movies that you do, you're not playing comedic roles. You're in a lot of dark and horror movies and thrillers and adventure movies.
I've done a handful of comedies, but mostly action, adventure, and a couple of horror movies here and there. I've played some comedic characters in those. There's one called 6 Feet Below Hell, where I played a character named Reggie, which is available on Tubi TV right now, and a couple of other streaming services have 6 Feet Below Hell as well. But that one's always one of my favorite indie film stories to tell, because I was never cast as that character. I was cast as an entirely different character. The night before the first day of shooting, the guy that was playing the character of Reggie just called the director and said, "I'm out. I'm not doing this." And he was due on set the next day. I wasn't due on set for 3 weeks.
Okay.
Well, the director kind of blows his top, and I love him to death, William Lee, but he gets on Facebook and does a little rant about this guy backing out, and he's going to have to rewrite the script. And so I just reach out to him. I'm like, "William, you don't have to do that." I said, "Here's what you do. I'm free tomorrow. I'll show up. I'll be Reggie. You can recast my role. You got 3 weeks to do it. You don't have to rewrite anything." So that's what we went with. I suddenly became Reggie, which was fine with me. Reggie was a goofy comedic character. I figured I could pull that off. And on set, I kind of went extreme with it. But that's we got to the set that next morning at 8:00, and the set we were supposed to use, the location we had, the guy that was supposed to open up for us was passed out drunk inside the building.
Oh no.
So we couldn't get in. So we scramble, and about an hour and a half later, we come up with an alternate location. So it's like, okay, we're going to go there. We're going to shoot everything anyway, because that's how William works. He does not say, "Well, let's just go home and try again later." No, we're getting this done. So we get to the next location. The problem is everything that I had in the script, everything that my character was supposed to do, was dependent on things that were at the other location. And that was all gone. So we had to the entire first scene I was in for that, we ad-libbed the whole thing. Now, a lot of that ended up on the cutting room floor, but we had a blast doing it. In fact, we had so much fun ad-libbing that scene that he actually changed the ending of the movie so that I could come back and kill one of the main bad guys.
That's a little influence there, Don.
It was such that was a fun movie to make. But Reggie was kind of a goofy, a couple of screws loose, and I went overboard with it. And there were parts I made him really like twisted and sadistic, but at the same time, still this kind of an idiot boy. So. But that one was super fun.
You did one called Boggy Creek, the Bigfoot series?
I did, yeah. Boggy Creek, the series, that also is available on Tubi TV right now. That was directed by Henrik Kuto, who I've worked with in a lot of other things. He did a lot of horror movies. I think one of his biggest ones was Haunted House on Sorority Row, there was Haunted House on, but I think Babysitter Massacre was his big hit. So yeah, Henrik's. I've worked with a handful of him. Actually, when Boggy Creek first came out, I binge watched all 6 episodes because I forgot it came out 3 years after we filmed it.
Okay.
And I forgot how often we shot at Wiley's, because there's I think of the 6 episodes, there are at least 3 of them where there are scenes shot in Wiley's. We got a lot of use out of that club with film groups. The movie Black Mamba, which is another cinema lexicon with William Lee. Black Mamba, I think something like 60 or to 70% of that movie was shot at and around Wiley's, and we made it look like so many different locations. I mean, we had part of it where we used as a morgue in a comedy club. It's like
Oh, if somebody really died in the club that night,
when you die at Wiley's, you really die at Wiley's.
we'll put you in the next room.
But yeah, it's handy to do. But yeah, I've been involved in a lot of really fun projects, and more to come.
Could you give us a little hint with some of the stuff that you're working on right now?
Right now, we're actually crowdfunding right now one called Headbang, which is another one with William Lee and Cinema Lexicon. I'm one of his producers now. We've worked together for, I think Headbanger will probably make it 10 feature movies with him. Mm-hmm. Which if you go to my Facebook page, you can find there's links to if you feel like giving a little money and getting an IMDb credit, maybe you can go support Headbanger, which you gotta love that title anyway. I'm going to try to talk to William and see if I can get some of my local musician, heavy metal, hardcore band friends to get some of their music involved in it. If we're going to call it Headbanger,
that was a big portion of the radio show too, right? There was a lot of metal featured on your show. Right?
There was actually the Potter's Field is a local metal band that I used a lot of his music for the intros and outros of my show, and I played his music a lot on the show. So yeah. So. But I also there's one called Red, White, and Black that's coming up. That's a kind of a buddy cop kind of movie. It's not a comedy, but there's comedic elements to it. I play one of the cops that has to partner with another cop that he does not like. So that's which is a lot of fun. That's with Robert Burns directing that. I've worked in several films with him as well. So we have that coming up soon. I think that starts filming next month. I think Banger is supposed to start filming next month too. I also have another one where I'm playing a police officer. Well, yeah, with the beard and everything, I don't know how I'm going to pass for a cop in some of these, but yeah, there's another one. I'm not sure what project that is yet. This is a third project. I'm not sure what's going on with that one, but I did have two recently released. One on Tubi called Eat the Rich, which is directed by Kermit Merle Key, who runs Frog Lab Production Studios, and also William Lee and Cinema Lexicon. We just had Black Wolf release on Apple TV and iTunes, which in Black Wolf, I play a very angry man who loves vodka. So it was a stretch. But somehow I think I pulled that off. As I'm drinking vodka.
You looked at the script and you said, all right, I'm ready.
I can do that. And we're also waiting for news. We have another one that's complete that's floating out there with Cinema Lexicon called, actually we have two more. Yeah, we have two more that are complete that are waiting for a release date. We have Bulletproof Jesus, where I got to play Lucifer, which is the role I was born for. And Treasure of the Ninja Part 2 is also coming out. I don't know when yet. We have those two that are sitting there waiting to be released, and I have no information of when that's going to happen, but hopefully soon, especially with Bulletproof Jesus, because that one was super fun. But Black Wolf on Apple TV and iTunes is super fun. And since I've been talking about him so much with Cinema Lexicon, this is just an audio podcast, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay, well, I'll show you anyway. This is William Lee.
Okay.
He wrote a book that just recently released. You can find on Amazon.com. It's called Seriously Bro, IDGAF.
You can figure out what that says.
Yeah. It's the journey of the world's angriest independent black filmmaker. If you're thinking about making independent films, it's definitely worth the read. It goes through a lot of the pitfalls that he went through, and it'll definitely help you avoid some major mistakes if you listen to his advice. William's been making independent films for over 40 years, and the man knows the business.
That's got to be probably the hardest part with producing, with getting a lot of funding and getting people to believe in you, and right?
Yeah, that's kind of tricky. Yeah, which usually we get the funding. We'll try crowdfunding occasionally. We're not often successful at it, but we still find a way to make the movies. He doesn't like dealing with investors a whole lot, but we always figure out a way to get them done anyway. Because that's what you have to do in independent film, because there are so many bumps in the road to getting one done that it's so much easier just to give up. That's why anybody out there that has completed an independent film, you have my respect. I don't even care how bad it looks. You have my respect, because it's a nightmare. It's a nightmare to get through.
Do you have any pieces of advice for people who want to get into making independent films?
Well, just do it. Just start with a camera and just get out there and do it. Don't buy the best camera, just buy one that'll do. Because that's one thing I see a lot of people do, is they'll buy this, $8,000 camera, and they had a $9,000 budget for their whole movie. And they just blew it all on the camera, and now then they get frustrated and walk. But they have a really expensive camera. I've worked with filmmakers that never got a complete film and walked away with huge amounts of debt. There was one we actually shot the entire movie. He lost a lot of the footage that he didn't have backed up when his computer crashed, and got frustrated and just gave up. And he probably sunk $20,000 of his own money in it that he did not have.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, it's independent filmmaking is not for the faint of heart. It is and I'm not even involved in a lot of the heavy lifting of it. I'm just, for the most part, I'm an actor. As a producer, I do a lot of the gun wrangling. A lot of the firearm safety is one of my big jobs on set, which we don't use real firearms anyway, but I am trained in real firearm safety as well. But sure. We have had incidents on sets before I took over as the gun guy. We had one of our gun safety officers actually did shoot somebody in the leg with a pellet on set with a prop gun that should have never had anything in it. But that's a whole other story. I got to work with him and some other stuff.
You and Alec Baldwin won't be comparing notes anytime soon.
No. That whole thing was just crazy. And that's one of those things that if you're responsible for those firearms on set, you need to be held accountable for that. Because that's, I don't even we don't even point the guns at anybody. With camera angles, you don't really have to.
Right.
You get the right camera angle. We don't actually, even though I know there's nothing in them, the ones I bring on set, I've checked thoroughly. Nobody touches them until we're ready to shoot, and I hand them. I've done firearms work for theater plays before, and there was one years and years ago at Dayton Theater Guild called Sordid Lives, which they actually made a movie of that with, was it Delta Burke? And I think Beau Bridges was in that. But there's a bar scene where they come in, they're waving guns around, and they force the women force these guys to strip down to their underwear. And it's a goofy scene that was really hard to keep a straight face during that one. But I provided the firearms for that. And I actually, for that stage play, I used real firearms. I had a revolver that I used, the 22 revolver I used blanks in. And again, nobody touched them but me until they went on stage. And they were locked up. And as soon as they came off stage, they got locked up again. Now, the reason I did that is prop weapons, especially in local theater, prop weapons don't get cleaned properly. They don't get taken care of. And that's why over half the time they misfire on stage. And that's not something you want. None of my firearms ever misfired on stage during a show. But I had a side-by-side 12-gauge double-barrel shotgun that I used in that too. And I created my own blanks for that. And it was basically just the primer. But the Dayton Theater Guild, the old Dayton Theater Guild before they moved, was a tiny little intimate horseshoe theater. And it was just the right volume. So you knew damn well a gun went off, but it wasn't deafening.
Okay.
But yeah, so I have used real firearms, but we don't like to do it on our sets. It was probably not the best idea then. But I did it anyway.
Okay. Well, as long as everybody stayed safe, Don.
Everybody stayed safe. I made sure nobody, it was just, I didn't want a lot of misfires. I don't like misfires. And stage is different than the film, because film you can always use some special effects and fake it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Theater, if there's a misfire, there's just a misfire.
Okay, I got one last question for you, and I know I'm probably going to get an interesting answer from you. Being that you've played a lot of different types of characters. Now, if there was a movie or TV show in existence with a character, what character would you want to play in any movie, or what would be like your dream role?
I don't know. I've already played Lucifer.
You can only go up from there, literally, right?
Yeah, that's been the top so far. I've as far as theater, I've always wanted to be not Felix Unger, but
Oscar Madison.
Oscar Madison in The Odd Couple. I've always wanted to play that role. I thought that would be super fun.
I did it in high school.
Did you? I haven't done theater in 14 years, and I miss it. I've actually got a job to where I have the evenings free. I might get into some auditions in the next couple months and try to get back on stage again doing theater, because I do miss that.
Well, at least if people want to see you too, I mean, if it's not local theater, they will be seeing you on some of the streaming services in the near future. So that's a good thing.
Absolutely. Yep. You can definitely check out Eat the Rich on Tubi TV. A bunch of others on Tubi TV, and Black Wolf just came out on Apple TV and iTunes. Definitely worth the watch. Black Wolf's a lot of fun.
Is there any place online where people can see like your work or see what you're up to, or is like you have a social thing going on? Or
about the only thing I do anymore is Facebook, and a lot of that I use just for the film contacts.
Okay.
But I'm trying to think if there's anything else, because all my websites, I mean, they're still out there, but I haven't updated them in probably 4 years.
Okay.
So, I haven't updated them since I was much busier, which you'd think I'd had the time now. But no, definitely check out my Facebook page. There's also Don Smith Comedy on Facebook is still out there. Maybe one of these days I'll update my websites. I think the liferadioshow.com the life1069.com was, I couldn't even remember my own. I can't even remember my own website. I think the life1069.com is still exists, and it has some things on there, but it just hasn't been updated in a long time.
Okay. So there you have it, folks. Mr. Don Smith, and we will be watching for you on the big screen and the small screen. Thanks so much for swinging by.
Oh, thanks for having me. It's been a pleasure.
We're on that internet thingy at sherpolution.com.
A very special thanks to Don Smith for coming by, and make sure you check out some of his projects on some of your favorite streaming services. A while back, I was actually on his radio show, The Life, and that was also a podcast too. If I can find the link and it still works, I will include it in the show notes so you can check out what The Life was all about. And he's really fantastic in it, and I hope you do check it out, or at least some of the work that he's currently doing right now. Maybe he's playing at a comedy club near you. Go see him. You will laugh. I will guarantee you that, folks. And if you're enjoying the show, you know what to do. Go to Apple Podcasts, leave a review, and let me know. You can be entered in our 100 review contest. But I don't know what that is. So anyway, if we get 100 reviews, what's going to happen is those lucky contestants in that pool, or even more, out of one of them, you might be chosen to win some free podcast merchandise. Pretty cool stuff, huh? Why not? So go ahead and do it. It doesn't cost anything. And it doesn't cost anything to listen to the show either, whether it's on podcast apps everywhere, sherpolution.com, or on my YouTube channel. Don't go to too many podcasts. Go to Jim the Podcast Sherpa. If you do go to too many podcasts, make sure you use the exclamation point, because that's the one that makes me stand out. Wah! That and my complete lack of talent. But anyway, that will do it for me and Lord Mr. Russo. We are heading out of here, and we will see you next time on Wednesdays with a new episode, as usual. So I hope you enjoy the rest of your week, and until then, viva la Sherpolution.
Thanks for listening to the Sherpa Screening Room. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, review, and share this podcast. I'm Mr. Bruce, and this has been a Sherpaloo Studios production. Viva la Sherpolution!
You know, Rebels, if you've been checking out some of my promotional ads on social media, you'll be aware that I have been using a lot of AI programs to help me create ads. But you know what? There's a lot more uses for AI than just funny little videos. And I'd like to introduce one of our new sponsors, Podium. It is a leader in creating AI tools for podcasters. Now, let's say you've got a podcast, or maybe you're even thinking of doing a podcast. You're probably wondering, well, how can AI be integrated with your workflow? I'll tell you about Podium. As a podcaster, you know that writing show notes and creating chapters and transcribing episodes takes a lot of time, and it can cost you a lot of money too. But you know what? That's where Podium comes in. It's an AI tool designed specifically for creators and podcasters with the goal of making post-production tasks quick and easy. And in just a few minutes, Podium generates show notes, chapters, summaries, clips for social media, a full transcript, suggested episode titles, social media posts, and more. Whew, that's a lot of work for one little program. Your show notes are key to your podcast's success because it helps new listeners find your podcast and they'll know if it's a fit for them. You know, kind of like Too Many Podcasts. It also improves your SEO, that's your search engine optimization. Ooh, big phrase there. And overall accessibility. And with Podium, you can focus on creating a great podcast and let Podium's AI do the heavy lifting. But Podium isn't just for solo creators and podcasters. It's a game changer for editors, producers, marketers, agencies, and production studios. Teams that use Podiums are able to increase workloads, decrease turnaround times, and improve their quality. How does it work? Very easy. First, go to Podium's website, and you'll see that link that's right there in the show notes. You get 3 hours free just to try it. Pretty cool, huh? And using that link also supports this show as well. And you know what else happens? Because I'm a good guy. You use my link, you will get 50% off for your first month. So visit the site, upload an MP3 file, and download your files, and that's it. And if you need anything else, you can use Podium GPT to generate articles and any marketing copy you might need in seconds. Instant show notes, transcripts, chapters for your podcast or channel. This will level up that podcast. So check out Podium today.